Guest today, and I'm so excited that you're joining me for the first of many conversations that I'm going to be having to share with you. I believe that our bodies are constantly communicating with us, and that so many health struggles come from just not knowing enough information. This podcast is about learning from wellness experts or other people's experiences. We're going to learn today, as well as exploring options that are out there and understanding how our body works so that you can take ownership of your wellness in a way that feels doable and something that is aligned with you and your life. And today, I'm very excited. I have a very special guest. Cindy Thompson is not only a very dear friend, she's also a business partner, but most importantly, she is a woman who found a solution to her health struggles after believing there was no solution for, I want to say, 10 years. I'm going to let Cindy share more about how she finally found relief from a keyword here, any woman watching this, menopause symptoms, after she discovered the answer was really just a shift in hormone and body balance. Her story is so powerful. It always resonates with many women. And it is a reminder that when we know more, we can choose more. So, Cindy, thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
Well, thank you, Tammy, for having me. I'm so honored to be your very first guest. I'm
Yay!
just so excited to do this. And Merry Christmas Eve, because this is when we're recording this.
That's right. I'm going to get it out as soon as I can as well.
Mhm.
Just launched this podcast, and I am so honored to have you as my first guest. You've been so supportive of this, and I know you stand behind the cause of sharing more information with more people. So, just so we can get into it, I'd love to know if you can just share a little bit about you. Maybe tell us where you were in life at the height of your health struggle. What's going on in your life?
Well, I'm going to take you back in time a little bit. I was 48 years old, and I had just gone through a horrific breakup. And that's always triggering for a lot of women and men when we go through a deep heartache after a long-term relationship ended. And I was feeling off, and I didn't know why. And I went to the doctor to get some relief, and just finding out what was going on with me. I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2014. And I'm super fortunate because it was caught very early. I didn't have to do any of that horrible follow-up treatment. I just had one really gnarly surgery that kept me in the hospital for about 5 or 6 days. I had to really start taking my health serious. I honestly took my health for granted my entire life. I was tall, I was slender, I could eat anything I wanted whenever I wanted. I didn't focus on my health. I just had a high metabolism, and I was chasing kids around because I was a mom to 3 kids, and now I'm a grandma. And I didn't really have to focus on diet or exercise or eating healthy. So being diagnosed with ovarian cancer was definitely my first wake up call that I needed to take my health seriously. And within a few weeks after my surgery, I began to have hot flashes. And I thought I was going to die. I remember going back for a post surgical appointment with my doctor, who I adored. And I said, "You have to make these stop. I am sweating nonstop. They are hitting me every 15 minutes. Do you want to take my blood? Do you want to check my hormone levels?" Like, I was like, something. And she sat there very calmly, and she looked at me, and she was a little bit older than I was at the time. And she said, "I can't do anything to help you, because anything that I could prescribe to you, whether it was bioidentical hormones or any kind of hormone replacement therapy, cancer risk. And you now have a cancer history." And of course, her only option was to look through things through the pharmaceutical channel because she was a medical doctor. I said, "Well, how long is this going to last?" She said, "Well, you're different. It could last for a year or two, or it could last for 10, or it could last forever." And I think I was in the forever camp, because it wasn't until 10 and a half later is when I found the solution. But during those 10 and a half years, in addition to hot flashes, I had mood swings. I had sleepless nights. I had night sweats. I had low energy. And I had, for the first time in my life, weight gain. right in my belly. I looked like I was pregnant. I couldn't get rid of it. And I tried everything under the sun. I did a lot of name brand popular diet plans that are out there that still exist. I did intermittent fasting. I did yoga. I was walking 15,000 steps a day. I even went to the gym. We have a gym in my office building, and I would stop by there, even though I'm totally not a gym person. Nothing seemed to help. And when I was doing fasting, I should say, I was fasting 20 hours out of 24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And in 8 months of doing that, I lost 4 pounds.
You fasted for 4 months?
I fasted for eight
8 months
months
with 4 pounds.
and I lost 4 pounds, and I had only an eating window of 4 hours a day.
I can't believe you stuck with it for that long.
I was desperate. That's what happens when you're desperate. In addition to that, I was buying everything off of Instagram. I was buying herbs. I was buying anything that claimed to help with hot flashes or menopausal symptoms. I was trying desperately to find a solution. And that wasn't going to increase my risk for having a disease come back to me. And then to complicate that, in 2019, I found out I had celiac disease. So then I had to be careful about everything that I was eating so that I didn't have a horrible reaction to consuming any gluten. And so between those two things, I was desperate. I tried everything, and I was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And my confidence and my self-esteem was getting lower and lower and lower. And even pre-COVID, I was already starting to isolate myself because I didn't want to run into somebody that I knew, because I knew they would look at me and go, "Holy moly, what happened to her? Look how she is."
Oh
I
no.
didn't want to read it in their faces when I saw them. And
Oh.
so it really impacted my life, even though I was so grateful to have a diagnosis that was caught so early that it wasn't catastrophic to my life. It was hard to live with this body that I felt was betraying me and getting zero relief. And then one day I was on Facebook and I saw my friend Leah do a post about some hormone balancing drops that were homeopathic and holistic. And she shared her before and afters. And I know her, so I trusted her.
Mhm.
In her post, she said, and they made my hot flashes go away.
Okay, we'll stop right here for a
Right
moment.
there. I was like, woo.
Yes. Well, many things are standing out in your story because all the way back to where you said, all my life, I was bone thin, I was slender your whole life, and you kind of wake up call. Really had taken your health for granted, which when we're young, we're invincible. So I think that's a very common thing. And you had a sequence of events that landed you a diagnosis. And what I heard you say was you asked your doctor, "What can I do about this?" Now, was that the only time you asked your doctor? Did you multiple
I
doctors
I no,
involved?
I went back to her a couple times and saying, they're getting worse. Is there anything you can give me? I actually begged to have the patch put on. I
Mm.
think she relented for a couple of weeks, and then she said, "I can't in good conscience let you do this anymore." And I had about 2.5, 3 weeks of not having hot flashes and feeling wonderful. And as soon as that one patch came off, boom, they hit again.
Oh, and we're limited because of your diagnosis. So
Hmm.
you couldn't go the traditional hormone replacement route.
No,
So I'm just thinking how much time went by.
10
10 and a half years, and we're
10
counting
and a
that
half
half
years.
because that's a really long time. I'm trying to think of during that time, you must have been feeling what? Frustrated. You talked about your confidence going down. I'm thinking about how common this must be, not even just for menopause, but for digestive issues. I know so many people as a reflexologist, and I see people who constantly struggle, and a wellness advocate in our wellness business, people who struggle with heartburn, chronic heartburn for
Hmm.
years, decades, and are just put on medication that kind of masks it but doesn't really make it go away. And I'm just thinking about this is such a huge reason, this right here, struggling for 10 years not knowing. I don't know if you were looking or you were just browsing, but it came across and you had a friend who shared her story. And this is all the more reason why we need to share our stories more, because our stories give people that hope and they give people the connection. All you had to hear, I want you to pick back up on your story, is saw her say this helped her hot flashes.
Yes.
How did
And
that make you feel?
it was, well, first of all, because I knew she wasn't uh, smoke up my skirt or anybody's
Right.
skirt.
Right.
She had been under doctor's treatment, so she was also posting things about her cholesterol levels and how that had gotten better and her blood work was better. And it was kind of the last thing she said as I was reading through this when she said, and my hot flashes are completely gone. And I messaged her immediately. I said, I saw your post. Whatever you have, I want to try that. I responded immediately, of course, but it was because I believed her. I knew her. I trusted her. And that was such a comfort to me because, like I said, I was buying everything through from strangers, from ads on Instagram and other social media platforms. I even bought magnetic jewelry that was supposed to melt the pounds.
Oh my gosh.
If it's going to work, I bought it. I was
Kudos to
that.
you for trying. You were trying. You weren't just taking it at its word. You were trying. And it had to be such a hard realization that you were trying all these things and not really getting the results that you wanted. That must have been.
It was terrible. I bought a product off of Instagram that was supposed to balance your hormones naturally, and they were capsules, and you had to take so many capsules a day. And the first day I took them, I couldn't go to work because I couldn't leave my bathroom. And I immediately went and said, hey, these make me sick. Can I get my money back? And of course, the answer was, oh, we don't have a refund policy. The
Oh,
magnetic jewelry I bought hurt my ears. There were earrings and a matching ring, turned
oh,
my finger green, and they were so tight on my ears that I
oh,
couldn't wear them longer than 5 minutes.
oh my gosh. You
It
really
was
tried a
just
lot.
terrible. But I was that desperate because
Mhm.
normally I think I'm a pretty savvy person, but I was that desperate because, like I said, I was dieting. I have dogs. We were walking 5, 6 miles a day. You do everything that you're supposed to do to lose weight. And I was getting bigger. The scale
Right.
was going up. And it was just so demoralizing. And I felt so defeated.
Tell me a little bit more about, are you commiserating with anybody? Like, is this something that you're holding private and you're just stewing? How's Cindy
No,
navigating this?
I have a really good friend, and it's one of my coworkers. So we would commiserate together. She's now retired.
Uh-huh.
We would commiserate about menopause. And I also think it's harder when you go into menopause surgically. And we both had gone into menopause surgically because it's kind of like your hormones just go off a cliff.
Rough.
And so
Yeah.
we would commiserate together and we did intermittent fasting together. We went to the gym together. We were trying to do all the things. And I remember one time she brought iodine and put it on my arm to see if I was deficient in something. We tie so much of our appearance and our body image into our self confidence because we know when we go out into the world, we're judged by that. And it was harder on me emotionally than I would let people let on. I tend to have a very positive, sunshiny outlook on life. But when I would be home alone and I would see myself in the mirror or I would stand on the scale just to see if anything had gotten better, only to see that it had gotten worse, it was just demoralizing. I
Oh,
felt very defeated and I felt like there's nothing I can do.
wow. Yeah. Hearing what you're saying, I can imagine feeling it really affected everything about waking moments all the way till going to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're feeling loss of hope and lack of confidence and you're defeated, not what's going to lead you to making good decisions about navigating forward in something fun with life. I'm
Mm-hmm. And
sure.
grandkids.
Yeah,
Yes.
grandkids, I'm sure they must have seen what's happening with you. Did you do you have any insights on that?
Well, the son is a firefighter, so he's all about fitness. I like to take my kids on vacation every couple of years. We sneak off to Mexico for a week at an all inclusive beach resort. So then you can't really hide anything.
Mhm.
You're in swimsuits and the like. I would take millions of pictures and then I would look at those pictures, especially the ones that were sent to me by my family members when they snapped them of me. And I would just be so cringy of how I looked and thought, oh my gosh, I look so big. Look at
Oh
my
my
tummy. Look how wide I am. Look how fat my face is. Look how puffy my cheeks are.
Yes.
But I still continued to go out and try to make memories that I would cringe every time I would see a full body shot of me
Mhm.
in a group photo because I didn't look like me.
Mhm.
And I did see Leia's post and I did learn about our hormone balancing drops, that they'd been on the market for 13 years. So
Dang
I've
it.
been
Could have been using
searching,
them all these years.
which is why I'm so determined that everybody hears my story, because I know there's other women like me who are looking for a real solution. And within 8 weeks of being on these hormone balancing drops, I lost 17 pounds and over 20 inches.
Wow. You can just share just a little bit about what makes these different than other things that you've tried that you couldn't return.
Yeah, I
Although these
couldn't.
are returnable, I do
These
know.
are returnable, but I've never returned them. Prior to trying the drops, I was having hot flashes every 15 to 20 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop. And within a couple of weeks, I noticed those were diminishing. In addition to my stomach was going down in size, that I was feeling more energetic, that I was starting to sleep better. During that process of getting my checkup in addition to the weight loss and the inches lost, and I know for me, I had a lot of inflammation. So those inches losing was the inflammation that was trapped inside my body that was getting released,
Mhm.
in addition to the fat and the weight. I was starting to feel so much better. And one of our doctors with our wellness company, Dr. Plant, likes to say, at first, you're going to feel better. And a lot of people don't think they feel better till they see a result, but we feel better right away using the drops.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm just feeling so excited to know for that long, struggling, feeling defeated, and now here within
8 weeks, I lost
8 weeks.
17 pounds
So
in eight
all
weeks.
along your 8 weeks to be down that much, to be
Mhm.
feeling so different, that's huge. I know these are something I personally coach people to use these hormone balancing drops, but I wanted you to share your story because I think it's very relatable for men and women. But
Mhm.
what I like about it is, as a woman who, by the way, I'm turning 52 in January, and I am encroaching on new territory with my hormones as well. And I turn to the drops when I have certain symptoms. I do know that so many women struggle. And if you are navigating menopause or even perimenopause, these drops were for people who want to improve their metabolic health. So I'm so glad you shared your story. Feeling bad for the old Cindy to be struggling that long.
I could take them safely as someone who had a cancer history, whereas my doctor could only give me different types of synthetic hormones and even bioidentical hormones that would elevate my cancer risk to return. And so, knowing that they're still hormone free, they still balance those main hormones that control us, like our cortisol hormone, which is our stress hormone, and like you referenced, the insulin, the diabetes. But
Yes.
these drops helped diminish that food noise that was going on in my head, that went right along with the self confidence that was dropping. You know, self confidence goes low, that food noise goes high. And so they helped get that under control too.
A huge difference in how you live your daily life and how you make choices. So I'm just loving hearing where you're at right now. And what does life look like for you now? What are you doing differently?
Well, you know, still a grandma. I'm still a mom of adult kids and walking my dogs. And I'm still a full time employee. And I'm also right along with you in the wellness industry. And life is fun. You know, I feel like I have the energy to go hang out with my grandkids. Just knowing that I feel confident going out. I feel excited to see my family, spend time with my grandkids, doing all sorts of different activities and feeling like I can keep up with them now. And it's okay to indulge. We can go out for Mexican food and we can indulge and have a moment, and it's not going to be catastrophic in my progress.
I love that. I'm so happy for you and where you're at right now. And I want to end with just a couple questions. But what would you say to somebody who is being told, well, that's just how it is? You don't really have any options, and that's life. That's your new normal. What would you say to somebody who's being fed that?
I would say that you have options. A person that's telling you that, even though they're coming from a good place and wanting to heal you, is not aware of all of the options because they have one lane. And there are many lanes that you can choose to improve your health. Don't settle for that. Don't settle for no. Don't settle for learn to live with it. Don't settle with maybe if you're lucky, they'll go away. Don't settle for that. You can take charge of your health. You can find solutions that are in a different lane, but they are actually good for you and they're not going to have the side effects that things can bring. Don't settle. There are solutions out there, and all you have to do is look for them.
Be open-minded to hear about them. That is such a good message. So now, what is one first step they can take after listening to this message today?
Well, they just got to say, I'm interested. We can't read their minds. They have to let us know. Not a scary thing to say, I would like information. Can I hear more? Do you have a flyer that I can look at? Do you have a website I can look at? It's all about educating somebody on the power that they actually have to heal themselves. And you just have to ask.
They have to ask.
They have to have the courage and the open-mindedness to ask.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much for sharing all of your vulnerable moments as well, because you shared quite a bit.
I did. I didn't know I was going to.
I did. That's why you're my first guest. I know for absolute sure that this is going to resonate with many women out there, and it may resonate with men who have women in their lives as well. But if this conversation did resonate with you in any way, especially if you're navigating menopause, weight changes, or symptoms that you've been told to just accept it because that's what happens when you get older, no, you're not alone and you do have options. Is a community, and we are starting this podcast here to add to a community that lets you know that there are options and you're allowed to explore other things that might feel better for your body. This completes our first episode with a guest. So thank you so much, Cindy. We'll return back. We'll probably have one more episode before the new year. And I cannot wait. I have so many speakers lined up, experts, wellness, things that you've probably never even heard of before, that I'm in the thick of exploring myself. And I just can't wait to learn alongside with you as well. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful Christmas. Thank you,
Bye.
Cindy.
Thank you.